I'm Tim Alberta, staff writer for the Atlantic magazine and author of two books, the first of which is American Carnage, on the front lines of the Republican Civil War and the rise of President Trump. And I wrote that book because I think there was just this extraordinary change in American life in the decade spanning the end of George W. Bush's presidency and the beginning of Donald Trump's presidency. And I think many Americans understood that there was, serious turmoil, serious disruption in the country during this period, but had never necessarily pieced it all together to understand how the economic component, the social cultural component, the political component, the demographic component, how all of it really fit together and created this sort of perfect storm that allowed for someone like Donald Trump to effectively hijack the Republican Party and not only take it over in the short term, but to really remake the party in his own image, to make the party into this sort of angry populist entity that was then in the years to come going to purge from its ranks many of the traditionally conservative the people who were, for instance, most consumed with free market principles, with the ideals of Ronald Reagan or of George H.W. Bush or even George W. Bush. The old Republican Party and its traditional stances on things really were, in so many ways, jettisoned in favor of a sort of more pugilistic, reactionary, populist conservatism. And Donald Trump was not the creator of this moment. I think in many ways, Donald Trump sort of was just the most opportunistic person who saw the conditions that had been swirling in the country and recognized that there was an opportunity, an opening here for someone like him to enter the political fray and to appeal to the fear, the grievance, the resentment, the insecurity felt by tens of millions of Americans who were looking around and thinking to themselves that they didn't recognize this country anymore and that something needed to be done to try to bring back the version of this country that they once knew and that they were most familiar with. And so into that moment charges candidate Donald Trump and his Make America Great Again ethos. And in so many ways, even though Donald Trump was sort of an empty vessel, someone who did not have strong ideological core values on a number of things, he was still able to tap into those feelings, those emotions, and that millions of Americans ultimately looked to him to become their champion, I think spoke to how the political class had, in both parties, but particularly on the right, the political class had really let these people down and had failed to deliver for them in so many different ways and had sort of invited the ascent of someone like Donald Trump. So American Carnage is really meant to tell the story of how someone like Donald Trump could have taken over the Republican Party, but then also how people in the Republican Party who knew that Trump was offering nothing but rage and resentment and revenge, how they effectively let him take the party over, how they accommodated his rise, how they enabled his worst instincts, and ultimately how they allowed the Republican Party to become what it has become today. And, in many ways, it was the ultimate Faustian bargain for many of these people. They recognized that only by pledging allegiance to Donald Trump and by turning a blind eye to his behaviors and to his authoritarian instincts could they themselves have the sort of power and influence and fame that they had always craved. And so many of these people effectively made a deal with the devil, and in doing so, contributed to the demise of the party that they were once leaders of.